Well, welcome to
anybody ever watch
Flight Live?
Eric, did you ever watch the old soap with Billy Crystal and all that, and Richard Mulligan? And Richard Mulligan used to go, and he would tell everybody, "I'm going to disappear," and he'd still be standing there, of course. So
for all of you who have joined us live, we're not a magician show. This
not yet, anyway, not yet.
But we're doing our best to entertain. So, Captain Ron, take it away.
Yeah, speak for yourself. I thought that was a pretty good disappearing act there myself. Whoa. Hey, welcome everybody. It's Tuesday night, and if it's Tuesday, we must be in Belgium. Oh no, that's a way back old movie. If it's Tuesday, it's Fearless Flight Live. For anybody out there who has a fear of flying, for anybody who might know somebody who's afraid of flying, anybody who just basically likes aviation and they hang around with a couple of old decrepit pilots. I will not say old decrepit flight attendants.
Better not.
A fresh, newly hired flight attendant and a youngster, Dieter Staudinger. So anyway, welcome tonight. We're glad to be back with you, and we're excited about the show tonight. First we always do a shout out for the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather group. That is big and growing. We're really excited about that. We're seeing a lot of activity on that now. And part of the reason that I got more to do and less time to do it in. Tonight's show is going to be, we're going to just go over a couple of finer points to the 101 class that we're resuming on May 1st here in Phoenix. And I joked this week we got the Q&A, and I joked about it being National Claustrophobia Week. There is no such thing. Diane documented that for me, but I just a lot of people talking about claustrophobia, which has always been an issue, and I found it's grown in the 33 years that I've been doing this. More people are just more freaked out about just being on the airplane, being confined, feeling trapped and things like that. Then everybody's worried to some degree a little bit about the flying in general, but more and more people are expressing the interest or the issue with claustrophobia. Special guests coming up in just a minute. Joey De La Torre, he's going to share his story, and he just flew. I got the book. The book is going to take a hit. We just got too much stuff to cover in 30 minutes here. So what we're going to do, Eric has consented to help me. We're going to take all of the remainder of the book and the earlier chapters that we already reviewed here. We're going to put them into a video so that you can download that. I don't know about you, but what gets me turned on to a book is if I know a little bit about it. So that was our goal to start with here. We got just a brief aviation news update, and then we got a few questions that came in that should help hold your interest there. Poll question. Keeping with the theme of claustrophobia, what we would like you to do, let me see this. I lost I don't know where it is. I'm muttering to myself, folks, never mind. The poll question is about claustrophobia. Are you more triggered by the airplane stuff, which we call mechanical triggers, or the mental stuff, the emotional stuff, and like claustrophobia? We'd just like to have you put that in the remarks somewhere, whether you're over your fear or whatever. Just give us a little bit of information there. We just like to see who's out there, and then maybe you can tell your story. We notice there's a lot of cross talking here. If we were teachers, we tell you you need to listen to us, and no, we wouldn't do that. But we love the crosstalk when we go back, and I go back on the next day and add my own comments to some of your threads out there. It's really getting fantastic to see all of you interacting with each other. We've had a lot of good positive interactions and feedback from people out there. So in the course of tonight, if you want to share your issues about claustrophobia, if that's one of them for you, feel free to do so. Okay, the Clear for Takeoff 101 in-person class coming up on May 1st. So one of the things that didn't go out in the first launch, if you saw that and registered, a lot of people sign up, and if you want to, make sure you get on it, because we're going to be limited now because of the COVID-19 restrictions. And I wanted to go through that really quickly here. This is stuff that if you're like me, you've been talking to anybody in the medical community and you got to go in an appointment, you got to answer all these questions before they'll let you in there. It's mandatory that everybody wears a mask in the terminal here in Phoenix. Sanitize your hands before we start the class. Well, I'll have some handouts of some sort that'll help keep everybody safe that way. If you have come within 6 feet of somebody who's had a test confirmed COVID-19 diagnosis in the past 14 days, please reschedule yourself for a later class. And then we get into if you've had any of the following: fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, please reschedule for a later class, because we don't want to get anybody sick out there. All of us, I believe, that'll be there, we have been vaccinated. So we'll be less, we won't hurt you for those reasons. We're lethal for other reasons there. So anyway, and I want to emphasize this class, just to make sure that nobody is confused. This class on May 1st is the in-person class given here at the Sky Harbor International Airport in Terminal 4. And it is not the one that we're going to start live online, which is going to be the next month on June 6th. And we'll be coming out with more information on that. But I just want to make sure, if you registered and you thought it was going to be online, it's not going to be online. It's going to be live in person at the Phoenix Airport. And we're back in our old ways of sorts, where we're going to do the classes on the first Saturday of each month, unless that Saturday happens to be in a 3-day weekend, like July 4th this year is on that first weekend. So we'll be doing the July class on July 10th, the live class that is. And in September, over Labor Day, that also is affected. So we'll be doing that on September 11th, which is the second Saturday of the month. But other than that, and we'll keep you appraised of all that stuff.
Ron, do you think we should mention that we will physically be inside an airplane, or should we not bring that up in case people are claustrophobic?
Well, yeah, and we don't want to tell them that. They won't come if they think we're going to trap them in the airplane.
Yeah, checking.
Good thing we didn't mention that, Eric.
All right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. This is the real value in this class, is you get to come and sit in a real live airplane. And before, we did a little bit in the classroom and then some on the airplane. The whole enchilada is going to be on the airplane now. And so we got to come up with some creative ways to interact with you all, because we won't have a PowerPoint or anything, a presentation or anything like that, a formal one with slides and stuff. But I got some really good tricks up my sleeve, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I got a PA system, and for anybody who's just watching out there, we're going to try to stream it. We have mixed luck with that because of the Wi-Fi situation on the airplane. If we could get them to start up, turn on both engines, and sit there at the gate with the engines running, we can get better Wi-Fi. But I don't think they're going to do that. They don't like to put time on the APU and stuff. Okay, so this is you might have noticed Elaine is not here this evening. She had a previous commitment, but she put up her Tuesday tip here, and it says, remember your why. This is a really important thing for life when you're trying to set goals and motivate yourself. And the term is remember your why. And for fearful flyers, and we'll talk about a couple of them here, one with our live guest and one with the person that the other person I'm going to talk about who flew last week or is flying right now. Could be a family event, could be a new city to explore, seeing friends, remembering why you were flying in the first place. Anything that'll help you focus on the reason that you want to get through that. And I can tell over the years, you hear people that are usually they're trying to do this for someone else, a spouse, a relative, or something like that. Doesn't work. You got to have your own why. And it's not to say that they don't want to fly on some level, but not the one that's going to get you through this. And hopefully Joey will have something to say about that. And when you do this, you keep focusing on the good stuff. And there's a thing with resilience in the human mind. It's called duality. You probably noticed that you can be in a positive mood, and something can be lingering in your mind, pull you down in the negative, or it can work the other way. You can have a little bit of a negative mood going on, and you can think of something positive. And that's the duality, and that's one of the things that we foster in the way we help people through coaching and content in Fearless Flight. Okay, Flight Attendant Corner. There's a couple of changes in the airline industry that are near and dear to Diane, and she'll see those. Oh, go ahead.
Couple class-related questions. I just
want
to bring them in. One of them is, are you blocking the middle seats?
No. That's the beauty of it. We don't have to, because they don't require that. So just a quick anecdote on that. When we had to use the classroom, to get us all in the same classroom at the Sky Harbor Airport, we could only have 8 people. So we have Eric and Diane and I'm there. That leaves us with 5 people that can come to the class. It's going to be a really custom course, but we didn't want to waste anybody's time with that. So doing it on the airplane, we can basically fill that thing up, but we have limited it to, we're not going to fill the airplane up. We are going to use some protection and preparation for that. But like I said, you got to have the mask and we got to do that. So, and if you have concerns, we'll be able to move people around in here. I have a PA system I purchased to boom that thing out, and I got some other tricks that we're gonna. Well, I shouldn't tell that. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a fun.
Yeah, keep those tricks in the bag,
Yeah.
Ron.
We're gonna get you into this. So, okay. Any other questions, Dieter, on the class?
Not particularly to the class and stuff. So let's but
Okay.
I will get to those questions later. We'll do them at the end.
Okay, cool.
Diane, take it away.
All right.
Tell us, talk to us.
Okay, where's my slide? Where's my
Hold on,
slide?
it's coming
It's coming.
right here.
Okay, so one of the not the problems, but one of the consequences of flying with COVID was you see on the side that says food fight. One of the things we stopped doing for the most part was serving. Some of the passengers asked me, why are we not getting the carts out? Well, you get the carts out and then you're touching everything. You're touching cups and food and the cart and handing things out. And so that provided way too much contact. And so virtually every airline did away with that. Things are changing, things are coming back. And so, this is for American starting May the 1st, but pretty much every airline on their own schedule is bringing back some kind of snack and or beverage service for the main cabin. Depends on the length of the flight, particularly for longer flights, there'll be a little bit more extensive service. So I don't want to say that all of the airlines are going to serve alcohol or serve hot food or anything else. If you're going to be flying, certainly go on to the website for your particular airline, and it will have a description of what kinds of food and beverage services is going to be available on that. But that's a really, for us, it's a really positive step for us flight attendants. Particularly, I know it sounds strange, but for longer flights, we gave safety demonstrations, we picked up trash, and it was kind of boring for us. And we love interacting with our passengers, and that's one thing we get to do when we do service. So we're looking forward to resuming service. All of us are looking forward to that. The other part of that slide, fighting to reclaim. This I saw on a Facebook page. That's kind of one of the aviation Facebook pages I subscribe to. And this is United in competition with Southwest. And so the airlines are starting, as they come back with not only service, but the numbers of flights serving different markets, the frequency of the services, and expanding the routes. They are starting to duke it out a little bit as far as trying to get your attention as a passenger, trying to get your business. And those are all good things, because the numbers of cities you can fly to nonstop or with only a few stops, and the new markets that the airlines are going to, it's only going to be wonderful for all the passengers to get where they want to go. Everybody's been cooped up for a year, and so everybody wants to go someplace neat, and they want to eat on the plane. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone.
Cool. So Diane pointed out to me that you guys are going to be the beneficiaries of the competition and trying to get your attention and get you back there. Right. So it's even a better time to fly. I could tell by just the amount of traffic, the amount of coaching calls that I'm getting. And I actually have 3 custom elite coaches where I actually go fly with these people coming up in the course of a month, which has been incredible. And so I'll get that.
Yeah, there's one more thing too, and that is that the different airlines are are starting to fill up the planes. So for example, Delta is going to be removing their prohibition against middle seats.
Yeah,
And
that's May 1st too. So.
yeah, that's starting for different airlines. They're also changing, they're going back to the pre-pandemic method, a lot of them, of boarding. Southwest at one point, because of COVID, they were only boarding 10 people at a time. Now they're going back to the old method of 30 passengers at a time. So things are starting to normalize a bit.
Yeah, pretty much game on. So
Yeah.
it'll be like it was before. And to your advantage, if you haven't flown in the last 30 years, it'll all be new to you. So go for it. Okay. The next slide coming up here, we had a winner last week. You remember, we had our 700 person to register and join our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather Facebook group. Her name was Stephanie Talbert Cavalrizzi. And I had talked to her. She didn't want to come on last week because she's a little bit shy, a little bit introverted and stuff, which doesn't help with the fear flying as well. But had a great time. And just so happened, she was leaving for Cabo on Sunday. And so we had just from Tuesday to Sunday to work on it. We did some coaching. She got the Fearless Flight Kit, and her and her husband, Ron, I know he's a good guy because he's got the right name there. But anyway, they sent me some pictures there. This is her meeting the pilots up there. She didn't want to do that. I shouldn't say she didn't want to, but that was harder to do that. And I think all of you will find that, when you get on the airplane, and if you have a significant anxiety about flying, it's hard to tell people and to go up and meet the pilot and all that. But she was so glad that she did. It was a really helpful thing. And here's some of the chats that we did right after she got there. And greetings from beautiful Cabo. We made it, bad turbulence, but I got through it. That was the cool part, because the focus when you're a fearful flyer is, particularly with turbulence, it's not to make it go away. It's not to pray for the turbulence gods to get rid of the turbulence. It's to learn how to coexist and calm yourself down. Think about it. If you could have two things, not have turbulence on unknown flights, or have turbulence and not worry about it, because you know that no matter how anxious it makes you, you're going to be able to manage it and calm down. That's what you want. And that will serve you as a skill for the rest of in other areas of your life. Okay. She started listening to the harmonizer as soon as she could when she got it. She loved it. Helped her actually board the plane with no worries. So she was actually calm when she got on the airplane in the gate. I think I've got her talked into being our guest, coming back here when she gets done, not to interrupt her trip down to Cabo. But I hope she'll be able to share with you just how upset and anxious she was. There was no way that she thought she could ever do that. And literally, it just came to her like that. Her husband, Ron, also has a little bit of anxiety. She got a little bit of a kick out of being able to tell me that, like she wasn't the only one. And she said, Ron said to tell you, that's her Ron. He doesn't even remember takeoff. That is hilarious, because he fell asleep on takeoff. So she thought that was pretty funny there. So this was a good day. So congratulations to Stephanie again for winning that the coaching and the harmonizer. And now let's bring in Joey De La Torre. I think I've got Joey's name correct there. Joey also had to fly, I think the week before that. He'll tell us that. And Joey, if you want to come on in and join us here, and we'll share that with people there. You can see, we'll start right out, Joey. You got a picture that says Cowboy Stadium champion. So what was your why that you had to get over this to get on an airplane?
Man. So I play flag football. I've been playing it for over 15 years, and it's a really good community. There's tournaments that go on all around the country, all the time. Every weekend there's something going on. And a few of my buddies actually went to the national, the grand finale tournament in Panama City Beach in January. So I saw the video and the highlights and how much fun they had down there. I'm like, you know what? I can't let this fear rob me of all these great experiences anymore. I got to just do it. Because before that, I have only flown to Vegas, and I was okay with that flight. I kind of just took it head on and it did that. But so this flight to Dallas was 3 hours. Well, I actually timed it over there. I literally timed it on my phone. Over there was 2 hours, 20 minutes. And then the way back was 2 hours, 50 minutes. But yeah, I just didn't want to let it rob me of anything anymore. So my biggest
what was your biggest trigger, Joey? What was the thing that set you off the most?
So I don't know if I really had a fear of I always had the more fear of being having the claustrophobia over like the actual plane crashing. But I feel like, you know, joining this class and listening to you guys every Tuesday, I feel like if I did have any kind of fear of like, you know, the plane, you know, anything else besides the claustrophobia, I feel like that was completely gone this time, because I felt like everything that happened throughout the flight, or even boarding, things like that, I kind of already went through with you guys, and I expected everything. So nothing was like a surprise to me anymore. I was ready for it. But yeah, for me, it was just like the door shutting, the 3-hour flight, like having to sit there. Like, what if I want to get off? Like, you know, I don't want to be stuck on the plane. That was my biggest fear. But I noticed, you know, I flew Delta, and they had a little pre-video before, like right before takeoff, of like a Delta like promo kind of thing. And one of the things they had said, the guys like, you know, go ahead and settle in and enjoy your flight. So when I got there, actually, some of my teammates were actually on the same flight. So I was like, thank God for that. And, you know, we had one quick beer, and I felt pretty calm. I was listening to the music, and I was calm, and I took your advice too. I asked to speak to the pilot. It was a little, you know, I kind of felt a little weird asking for that. I felt like a little kid doing that, you know, like, can I see the doctor? And the pilot,
that's what I was saying. That's what Stephanie said as well. You know, because we all, that's another type of anxiety that we don't associate with on its own, but it's called social anxiety. And that comes again from our ancestors, because when, you know, you go back, you know, 100,000 years, you couldn't afford to be rejected by your group, right? Because now you got to defend yourself. You don't have any more help finding food and things like that. So that's a very, very common one, and oftentimes that's a bigger fear than even the claustrophobia and stuff. So
yeah.
Anyway, so what did he have to say to you or what did you say to him, and what did he say back?
I say, hey, bro, I have a little bit of a, you know, pre-flight anxiety, and my coach told me that I had a coach named Ron. I said he told me to ask you to you know, see the deck and ask you some questions about the flight. So he's like, oh yeah, come on front. So I went up front with him, and he showed me like an iPad, and like, you know, he was like scrolling across like where we're gonna fly over. And he said we might run a little bit bumpy here, but other than that, it's gonna be a great flight. So like, cool. And I feel like he would have let me stay in there a little bit longer, but somebody came in like for like to repair a wheel or something they needed. I was like, oh, cool, great. So yeah, I just kind of walked out. All right, at least let me in. It was cool. But but it's true what you said about the whole social anxiety too, because I felt like one thing I learned from this class too, like, okay, it's okay to be afraid. There's certain things that are okay with, like, you're like, that's normal. Everybody has that. I feel like even when I'm here in the waiting room to come on this video, I had that same it's the same feeling. You just got to dismiss it. So I just dismissed it, and I came on here same way. I just got on the plane and just did it. And I felt like the TVs on the plane really help a lot. Like, it kind of like, you kind of forget you're even on a flight sometimes.
Yeah. And that's the key, right? I mean, initially, that's what I tell people, that the things that are going to get you on the soonest onto an airplane, if you have a lot of anxiety, are disrupting your thoughts and distracting your thoughts.
Yeah.
So that's what the harmonizer does, that, as does TV or anything you can load in there. And I got another person who I did some coaching with, and I'm going to share some of the things that she does before her flight. But if I heard you right, the biggest things that helped was knowing more before you got on the airplane and before you got to the airport.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I say people, you got to have a plan, because if you don't plan, you know, the old adage, you know, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, you know. And the hard part with people about fear of flying is it's hard to imagine, kind of like, I can't stop eating if I want to lose weight. How do I stop thinking about these things? Because I got to think all these thoughts run through my head. But what you do is you structure your thoughts. And when we talk on the coaching, we started out with what questions do you have? And that helps me find a path to lead you down so that you can then do more, and you don't need me. You know, my biggest goal is to work myself out of a job with people, because you need to do it. Because you can replicate this now on your own down the road, you know, and get back in there. Anything that you can think of that you would say to somebody out there who's on the fence? And, you know, we started with a 15-minute call, right?
Right. True. We started with a 15-minute call.
Yeah.
And then like the day, like maybe 2 days before that, I needed another 15-minute call because I was panicking. But I think the day before is like the only time I really had that feeling of real full panic. Like, oh my God, it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other than that, if I could say anything to someone who's like kind of on the fence about it, for sure, tune in right here every Tuesday. Contact Captain Ron because he's very helpful. Even right before takeoff, Ron was giving me a text, and I really, really appreciate that big time. But for me, I feel like, because like even my own mom, she's never flown. So now I'm sharing with her. So maybe I could say the same thing I taught her is like, there's nothing to fear. Everybody hears the same thing about, it's safer to fly there than, your drive to the airport. That one's like a given. But, I feel like you got to just trust it, relax, settle in. That was a big word for me. Settle in. You're fine. I kind of said to myself, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'll be okay. I'm fine. And yeah, other than that, like, one of my buddies had told me too, like, and I applied everything. He had said, when you're up there, just close the window and just pretend you're on a train.
Yeah.
And that's like, okay. So like you guys had said too about the whole bump, about the turbulence. So I kind of like, I think you had said too about how, every little bump in the road, just picture it like a car, like, even when you're driving on a highway, you're going to feel bumps here and there. So like, when I was on the plane, I felt those bumps. I'm like, okay, that's normal. That's part of the game. The plane isn't going to fall. And I think one other fact you guys threw on here too, that stood out to me too, like how you guys had said about, even if the engines were to go out, that the plane could still coast for, I forgot how many miles you guys said, but I was like, yeah, even if the engines go out, we're still going to be fine. Like we're still going to make it. There's nothing to fear.
Yeah. An airliner has a glide ratio of like 13-1. Eric can back me up on this. So if you're 10 miles, well, you wouldn't be 10 miles up. If you're 8 miles up, okay, you can go 13 times that laterally.
Okay.
It actually glides better, right, Eric, than a Cessna 172. We have
Which I couldn't believe. And I have my Cessna 172 owner's manual up there, and Ron was talking about that. I go, whip through there. And he go, yeah, the airliner can actually glide farther. We just never try stupid stuff like that in the airliner. I couldn't believe it when I looked it up.
Except to some degree, we do every time we land because we pull the power back to idle for a lot of the descent, and we are taking advantage of the glide ratio.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you showing up, Joey. I think that's the biggest part of this is showing up, and you did big time. I saved these texts from you, and I remember you texted me the night before and said, "Oh, Cameron, this isn't going very well." And and again, you need to pat yourself on the back for having the courage to go through with it, because what you get out of the experience is literally the way you get over it. There's a thing called duality where you have to learn how to be with discomfort in order to learn how to ameliorate it, and mitigate it and minimize it. And that's what you do. You can't do it sitting in your chair. You've got to be in the airplane and going. So anyway, well, thanks. If you want, I want to thank you again. If you want to stay with us, you can hang with us, and otherwise appreciate it, and stay in touch with us. Okay.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Really great.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Okay, so let's move into some questions that we have here at the end. I'm on slide 26, Dieter.
Okay.
So I had a big question, so I thought we'd just make it a group question here. And the question was, coaching appointment. When should I schedule it? As soon as possible, right before my flight, or somewhere in between? And two things about this. One, I think sooner is better than later, always. Because when you do coaching, you find out things that you can do on your own, and you can practice them then. If you wait till the last minute, now you got more and more pressure on yourself. The one thing I'll say, the people who call me, 24 to 48 hours before they're going to fly, they're highly motivated. So the why and the how is pretty damn important at that point in time. But we don't recommend that because, you can actually do things long before you get on the airplane there. And as far as doing it early, I record the sessions unless I mess up and don't get it, but that hasn't happened for a while. So you'll have that recording that you can use kind of as a legacy of our experience, and you can listen to it again and again and again. And that way you don't have to take notes either, unless you absolutely want to. Here is the 15-minute coaching page that you'll go on. And if you're watching the show and you've ever done coaching, what I'd like to do is put put some comments in the in our Facebook page there, or on YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube, either now or the delayed version or the replay. So we'd love to hear that and help other people, because a lot of people don't have any idea what coaching is all about. And I've got another one coming up here. Got some statements coming in from people about that. Okay, as a matter of fact, this is from Lane, who I coached, I think 4 or 5, 6 years ago. She lives here in the Phoenix area, and she hadn't flown like a lot of people during COVID. She was getting anxious about it. And this is what she is. She hasn't taken her flight yet. As you'll see, she's coming up on May. So she said, hey, I wanted to quickly touch base since our call a few weeks back. And we're about a month away from our trip to Oahu on May 22nd. And I've been doing better, not obsessing so much. I've been reading your book and downloaded the kit. That's the Fearless Flight kit, but need to make sure I have it on my iPhone. Absolutely. Because we want you to have it available for when you're in flight and you can't stream. So I want to start listening to it ASAP. That helped me so much before. And it's just like what Stephanie said. And I've also been watching fun Oahu videos, Hawaii videos on YouTube when I take my daily walks. So it's helping me to get excited about our trip. So instead of watching accident videos on YouTube, watch some fun stuff that's going to connect you with where you're going. Again, it's the way you pull that part of you, that duality part in your brain. However, if watching videos of your destination and your trip just makes you obsess more about the day you got to get on the plane, probably not a good idea either. But in that case, you probably should do some coaching to get rid of that, okay? She's trying to visualize 1 to 2 things she wants to do the day she arrives. I've never heard that before. That's a great idea. The day you arrive, think of 1 or 2 things that you're going to focus on, so that when you get there, you don't even give time to yourself to worry about the flight getting there. She's leaving at LAX in the morning and gets there later, or not too much later in the morning due to the time change. She wants to do this without meds. She's been doing great with that, and I think she's going to be successful in this. She's a big Columbo fan, so she's having her husband download all these old episodes of Columbo on there. So that's the things that you want to do. And I like to, and so that all came from coaching. Not all of it came from me in coaching. A lot of it was her own innovative and creativity there that got her into that position. All right. Next one. What scares me most about flying is the height that we're at cruising altitude. And so many people have a fear of height. We know this guy, Jim. Remember our good friend, Jim? He was terrified to fly. He's a pilot, one of us. And he wouldn't get it. He was 6'4". He wouldn't get above the first rung on a ladder, but when he was in an airplane, he could rationalize his story and say he's on the ground because he could feel the floor of the airplane underneath there. You ever talk to anybody, about heights and stuff like that, or run into them, Eric?
Yeah, I have had people admit to that. I mean, I have a minor situation with that, ladders, roofs, stuff like that. I hate your meditation thing in class where you say, why don't we float over to the edge of this building ledge? I'm like, well, why don't we just jump off it while we're doing that in the class early? Yeah, but I'm in the airplane and it's an abstraction and I don't feel that at all. Yeah.
And then she asked, what angle does a plane take off and how much is the incline from the cabin? That is a common fear with a lot of people, even the ones that are more freaked out by claustrophobia. They're concerned that I had one lady right after 9/11, she said, it feels like when you take off, we keep climbing, and we're going to go to the moon. And I said, if we ever accomplish that, we wasted a lot of money in the space program, because we could do that much cheaper. So what's takeoff like, Eric? What describe that?
Well,
as far as the pitch
really
attitude.
Good question, and hit a couple of bullet points. The nature of the swept wing on the airplane requires that the airplane body angle be rotated and the nose come up higher. Then if that wing was straight, you would not have to rotate the nose up as high. But in order to generate the lift we need, the speeds we need to rotate it. And we rotate it at an exact planned speed to arrive at our best single engine rate of climb speed when we finish the rotation and lift off the runway. Should something happen, we're exactly set up to continue the climb we want to. And as we accelerate and leave the runway, we're going to pitch up, rotate the nose angle higher and higher, because the airplane's accelerating And we want to pick up altitude as fast as we can for obstacle clearance, so that we can power back the engines into a normal climb power setting and to get up and away from the traffic area. Also, if you have an airplane that's an older gen 737 like Ron's holding, there's not too much concern with rotation and tail striking. But if you have a longer airplane, like a 777 or a 757 or a 767-300ER, you can only ease the nose of the airplane up 8 to 10 degrees and let it come off the runway and climb a little bit. And then once the airplane is clear of the runway surface, then you rotate to the optimum deck angle. So you would actually feel the airplane rotate swiftly to a steeper angle, smacking the tail.
I want to just emphasize that what you've described there, it's a precision move. We just kind of with our finger, Kentucky, say, it feels right, No, we rotate to exactly 15 degrees till the airplane leaves the. And then, as Eric said, depending on the thrust and the weight of the airplane, all that, we may have to raise the nose to keep our climb speed because we're using takeoff thrust on there. But it's a precise maneuver. There's nothing guessing. We have to do that to comply with all the things which Eric alluded to, and that is single engine performance. So we're thinking single engine from the time we rotate and do that. So
I also,
go ahead, Diane.
I want to say, Eric, so discuss what effect on that the certain cities have noise abatement requirements with regard to. Well,
there are still a few of those, and if a city has a noise abatement requirement, it's a special published procedure, and we'll comply with that. And generally, we'll climb out as steeply as possible to an altitude, usually at least 1,500 feet above the ground, and then reduce the thrust quite markedly from the takeoff power setting, so that we are whatever neighborhood we're going over, it silences the takeoff noise. Right. But the difference in the power setting you'll feel from near maximum takeoff thrust to reducing that power to the quiet climb mode is significant, and the nose will come down significantly as we fly over that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And Diane and Eric, you just perfectly played into Deborah's hand, who was talking about two things. One is how it feels that after takeoff, the power reduction feels like stalling, and then that feeling of and so
we're going to fall out of the sky. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And sensations in general on takeoff, well, throughout the flight, sensations are the biggest trigger for everybody. Sights, sounds, and sensations that you don't know what the hell's going on can always cause uncertainty, and the brain doesn't like uncertainty. But the physical sensations you feel, like Dieter was talking about, like the thrust reduction, and if we take off at our maximum thrust for takeoff, because we have a window of thrust on takeoff. It's variable depending on how heavy we are and the performance that's required. If we take off at full thrust, within about a minute from takeoff, we are going to reduce that thrust, as Dieter alluded to, and you're going to feel like all that noise and vibration and being pushed back in the seat, which you absolutely hated just a minute ago, you now have assimilated that and adjusted in your mind. So when we reduce the thrust somewhere, now it's like, oh my God, they're going to kill us now. No, it's just you're accelerating less because we don't need all that energy anymore, and we climb out at a little bit lower speed. The last thing that Elizabeth mentioned here was that it feels like you're on a roller coaster, and that's the limited visibility you have out the windows, not being able to see out the front, all contributes to the illusions that go on in your brain where all that stuff gets mixed up. That's why, again, going back to what Joey said, knowing more, you're going to do better. So the more you do that, and if you have to read it on your own, okay, if you need some coaching or you need to just come back here, but the more you do it, the better it's going to be for you, because you're going to understand that. Speaking of roller coasters, the Air Hollywood facility, because the next question is, when are we going to go back to Air Hollywood? Well, we're working on it. We really are. And the fella who owns the studio over there, who originally invited me to come over and do that, I just spoke with him again today. COVID was such a a shot in the wallet for him because he has an aviation themed studio, and a lot of the movies didn't do anything, let alone with aviation theme. And so he literally had to gear down, and he's moved the studio over there. So he's got to get everything back up and running in there. But the good news is he's right across the street from Magic Mountain. So we can all take a roller coaster ride in preparation for the flight if you stick with us there. So I know that'll bring smiles to most of you out there. All right, just a couple of things to go here. We'll be having the classes at Burbank. I've just get a ton of questions from people looking at the 101 starting back up here. So we wanted to address that, and I just did. We're looking. Most optimal probably be when maybe get a class towards the fourth quarter of the year down there, because we really want to do that. And then let's see. This is
one. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just one clarification, just because it was in the thread there too. So the 101 class is on a stationary airplane, but we're not going anywhere. The plane's gonna stay at the terminal. And so the question is, when do we have flight classes again? We don't know for sure yet because there's so many variables and factors. But like you said, as soon as anything is buildable or dependable for us to build out a plan, then we're going to offer them again.
Yeah. So I had an inquiry from a psychologist back east. And we've been thinking in different terms because of COVID. So online is going to become much more prevalent. Here's the old model. When we did the 201 class and the 301 class, the 201 was in a classroom. The 301 was where we all go to fly. Those people who took the 201 and wanted to fly, and that was it's fun, it's exciting, and everybody is successful with it. The problem is it makes a really long day when we have to spend the first half of the day in the classroom and then migrate to the airport and do that. So one of the things that Dieter and I have been working on and we're working towards is we're going to put out a 201. That's an online version, and we're thinking of making that the prerequisite. So now Phoenix, everybody who is ready and game wants to do the 301. Now all we got to do is meet at the airport, just have a little bit of a brief before the flight, and we can go flying first thing in the morning there. And that also brings us to the point of the number of people who have requested that we come to their cities around the country. So this psychologist wrote me and he said, how many people would it take, would you need to make it worth your while to do a class in our area? So I'm going to have a further conversation with him this week. It's going to be helpful to him and certainly to me. We're going to talk more about the details there. But in the meantime, if you have a bunch of friends or you talk to your therapist or anything, let us know if you've got people in your area. Our list is starting to grow dramatically, and we need a number of people. But we're trying to look at and maybe doing a class.
Rob,
there's a few 10 people.
Before we get the all caps from the New Englanders, Susan Hopkins, we got a couple other people actually asking, I think, from the New England area, or at least general area.
And we have another therapist up there too.
We're gonna come up with a number. We're gonna come up with a way to have people enroll, go through the 201 online, and then the flight portion can be held in different places around the country once everyone has gone through it. So it's definitely a model that is building even more engagement and even more learning, because you actually get more time with us, because the online class is definitely more content, and then we're going to put it all together in the flight. So
and the hard part was the logistics of delivering the same kind of class other than in Phoenix there, because we have to fly wherever it is. We have to come in early to set things up. We had to get a hotel and all that. So this is really going to change the game for us, and we're really excited about doing that. Okay, racing into the final here, aviation news update. I thought we ought to acknowledge. I've always been a space nut myself. I grew up when they started when Sputnik was launched, and we got into the space race with the Soviets and first man on the moon and all that. Well, this week they launched that helicopter, that drone on Mars, and I don't know about you, but I'm totally impressed. And I put down a couple of quick facts on there. Just the time for the signal traveling at the speed of light to tell that helicopter to launch, for example, it takes the shortest is 4.3 minutes from the Earth to Mars, and the longest is 21 minutes, depending on where Mars is in relation to the Earth in its orbit there. So imagine that. And I know that they have a specific name for it, but when they launch something and have it descend onto Mars, it's out of contact for like 7 minutes or something. They call that the dead zone or something like that. I know in the moon, when they come around the back, the radio silence and the Lemagnons there. And just to follow up with that, if you want to send a signal to Pluto, it takes 4.5 hours from the time you close your mouth until the little guy on Pluto would get that. And the Earth to the moon is only 2.56 seconds for that. So
and that depends on whether you're on T-Mobile, Sprint, or Verizon. And
there you go. There you go.
Don't be on Rogers.
You're not going to admit who they're using because the other guys will knife them.
Yeah. So, what are you worried about? If we can run that little drone on Mars, we can certainly teach a couple of monkeys like Eric and I to fly that airplane safely. So that's my closing motivation. I don't know if that was helpful or.
I'm not sure that was helpful, but yeah.
It sure was entertaining.
Yeah. Any other final questions, Dieter?
Well, I'm just gonna say Susan Hopkins is holding her breath for all of us to come to Boston. So,
all right. So the first thing, Susan, is breathe. Yeah. Don't hold your breath. Okay.
But that doesn't mean we're not coming, Susan. It just means you have a better experience because you're gonna keep breathing.
Your mother's not gonna give you what you want, no matter how long you hold your breath. But we'll try really hard.
Yeah, and we don't want you to pass out before we get there. So anyway, so thanks, Dieter, thanks, Diane, Eric, and thanks again to Joey for coming on and bearing his soul. This is another episode of Fearless Flight Live. We really appreciate you coming in and following us on that. Keep those cards and letters coming, and have a great week. And happy landings to everybody out there. Bye-bye.